Welcome back to Next Shift with Rick Wagan. Suzuki does not suck. This is the post-game show after the Montreal Canadiens played the New Jersey Devils in New Jersey. The Montreal Canadiens lost the game 5-3. Hughes ended the game with a lot of points. 1 goal, 2 assists, +3, 5 shots on net, 20 minutes, and 1 more faceoffs than he lost. The Montreal Canadiens lost the game 5-3. They never had the lead. The New Jersey Devils took a 2-0 lead in the first period on goals by Jesper Bratt and André Palat. And then they followed it up. The Canadiens scored a goal by Alex Newhook on a nice pass by Jake Evans and a good pinch by Jaden Struble. Siegenthaler scored to make the score 3-1. And then Brendan Gallagher got his 6th of the season. Great start for Brendan on assist by Josh Anderson and Christian Dvorak. Jack Hughes broke the back again and scored to take the lead 4-2. Alex Newhook then went on to have an end-to-end rush that was unbelievable to make it 4-3. And ultimately, the other team, New Jersey Devils, potted an empty net with just a few seconds left in the game. So let's talk about the Montreal Canadiens. Basically, they, as I've been talking about for some time, they wanted to be in the mix this season, and they had an injury to a key player, Patrick Laine, and players like Kirby Dach, players like Alex Newhook before tonight. Many of the players, Gouli was injured, Slafkovsky had some injuries. Just too many players that just didn't quite live up to what was expected in the beginning of the season, or they were injured. And now we're pretty much at the point where the Canadiens are what now, 4-8-1, I believe, something like that. I don't think it matters at this point. And the chances of them really succeeding are low. As we talked about from the last couple of weeks, the epiphany that I've had is that the Montreal Canadiens are pretty much down to 6 or 7 guys on this team that are going to be on the team when they really compete. And so the Canadiens need to develop those 6 or 7 guys. Caulfield's had a rough couple of games. Suzuki hasn't looked very good the last few games, and pretty much all season he looked a little bit slow. Dach has looked mediocre at best. Slafkovsky has had his chances, but his shot seems to have disappeared this season. Newhook, he's just not that, the player that was anticipated with, was a first round pick, not a first overall pick, and a second overall pick. I think they had to give up for him. And all in all, it's been, Gouli hasn't been playing the type of hockey we were accustomed to seeing last season. And that's the biggest issue. We can talk about this season and guys like Gallagher and Evans stepping up, and even Josh Anderson, who, if you know me, I'm not the biggest fan, but he's been playing good hockey for him. And Armia looked decent and is doing some good things offensively and defensively. Guys like Jack Guy and Struble. But at the end of the day, the Montreal Canadiens are rebuilding. We were hoping that it was, a season of, being in the mix. But I think with the injury to Laine and the injury to a few other players and just the lack of production and success from 2 or 3 key players, it's causing issues. And they're working on a system. They're working on a bunch of different options. End of the day, it's going to be a long season. The Canadiens need to turn this around and start getting production and value from those 6 or 7 guys. And I think that's the biggest concern that I have from tonight's game, is that if you watch the game, the Montreal Canadiens, pulled the goalie. They left Matheson out there. And, I talked about it in the beginning of the year, and I said, there's never going to be a time he's going to have more value than before the season starts. I still believe that. I think the Canadiens, the problem with them is, every one of their defensemen are younger than the next. and Matheson brings a level of experience that's important. If he's not on the team, this team would be even more in trouble, just because you'd be depending on guys like Struble and Gooley and Jackeye to play the parts of a Matheson, over and over again. So I'm not the biggest fan. I think we could have traded him, in the offseason and gotten some value from him. I think at this point, I don't think the value is worth what you're going to get, and at the end of the day, he's a fourth, maybe fifth defenseman on a good team. And, he brings some value. He's a great skater. He has some, ability to play defense at times if he doesn't take chances. And so at the end of the day, that player is going to stick around for the next couple of years and be the veteran presence, but he just has to get less ice time, and the Canadiens need to make a trade to get some more value. So I'll make I talk on during the game through our chatting group, etc. And there was a comment made about Kovacevic, and I think we all liked Kovacevic. He was a player that was picked up by Hughes and Gordon in a waiver pickup. And so he was basically let go by another team. And think about waiver pickups, because that's part of the problem. Kovacevic was not be able to be cleared on waivers. Jackeye is not able to be cleared on waivers. Barron's not able to be cleared on waivers. If you think about what you're doing, is if you keep Kovacevic on this team, what ends up happening is, forget Mailloux not playing or Reinbacher not playing, which, by the way, the goal was to have one of those two guys playing in the NHL in the beginning of the year. And so there was a terrible injury to Reinbacher, unfortunate. And then Mailloux, has been up and down, but he brings a lot to the table as well. Barron, the hope was for him to step up, or they were going to trade him. And he was on the trading block to Winnipeg for McGordy at one point. So what you have to understand is the Montreal Canadiens have 6 defensemen right now, maybe 7, no, 6, that can't be waived. The players that can be waived are Struble and Hudson. I don't think anyone wants to waive Hudson and send him to the minors. Send him to minors without waiving. And Struble, I believe, is one of their top 2 defensemen right now. So, at the end of the day, if you kept Kovacevic, you couldn't keep Hudson. So that's the trade-off that you're looking for. And if you keep him and you try to send him to the minors and waive him, he's going to get picked up. He's a solid defenseman. So that's my response to the Kovacevic comment. And he's playing over his head right now. He's playing on a very solid team. He's a solid player. I'm not putting him down. But there are, when he started the season, Luke Hughes was injured. Pollock was injured. They had some guys injured. They still have 1 or 2 defensemen injured. He's going to be a part of that defenseman. He's a 6th or 7th defenseman on that team once everyone's healthy. But for now, he's playing a lot, getting a lot of opportunities. It doesn't take a lot to get assists on that team. You just have to pass it to Jack Hughes. And if you watch the game tonight, you could see why. Now, that being said, I'm not putting him down. He's a solid defenseman, never disliked him. But I understand why the Montreal Canadiens did it. He's a little bit older than some of the players that they're looking at. They're hoping that a Reinbacher and Mailloux could step up. It didn't quite work out, this summer, and there were some definitely injuries, etc., that drove that. So at the end of the day, the Montreal Canadiens got a 4th-round pick instead of waiving him and getting nothing. So that's the way I look at that response. And again, if you go back to what I was saying, 6 or 7 guys, I don't think Kovacevic's in those 6 or 7 guys. I guess we'll never know. But at the end of the day, they banked on Struble over Kovacevic. That's basically what you're understanding right now. They want to have a player that can play, be up and down and not be caught in waivers, versus keeping Kovacevic and not having that flexibility. So that's my take on that one. Very disappointed in Doc. Very disappointed in Slafkovsky right now. Very disappointed in Suzuki. Not that happy with Caulfield. I mean, he's trying, but he just looks small out there this week. They go through ebbs and flows in the season. Guys like Newhook look better tonight. Gallagher just keeps on trucking, and Anderson's looking solid even with Dvorak. Evans made some great plays and set up Newhook on one of his goals. Played great defense on the penalty kill. I'm not sold on Montembeault being a number one goalie in the NHL. Forget being a top 10 or top 15 goalie. I think he's going to be a top goalie on this team, and he'll be in the bottom tier, somewhere between 25 and 20, 25 and 18 in the NHL from a goalie this year. And we'll just have to look for and hope for like a Fowler to progress and do well sooner than later, and or a trade. Goaltenders are not that difficult to get. Look at New Jersey; they got Jake Allen and Markstrom. So it's doable. Ottawa got Umark. You can get these players, for a first round pick or for some quality prospects. Many teams have a couple of good goalies, and that might be the path in a couple of years. Or Fowler will kick in and be great. Gouli is disappointing right now too, and that's very disappointing because I love the kid, but he looks like he's fighting it. And Jack look good. Struble looks good. Hudson, continues to look good. Every time he took a chance, he stepped up on one of the goals where Heineman could have passed it over to him and it would have been an empty net. I don't think Heineman ever saw him. I don't know if Hudson speaks enough. If he doesn't, he needs to start talking more and letting his teammates know he's open, because he needs to be, brought into the game a little bit more. He takes control of it, but he rarely gets the pass that he's looking for. And maybe that's going to be the Demidov or somebody else to do those kind of things. I was hoping it was going to be Suzuki, but it doesn't appear it is. So, all right. I don't think we have anyone online to ask any questions. Are there any people? No. All right. So that being said, I'm going to call it a night because I'm frustrated with the Montreal Canadiens. They're playing next game in Toronto. Chalk that one up as they did beat Toronto already once this year, but they're not playing the same level of hockey, and their goaltending isn't the same. So I don't see any chats. I don't see any people on. So we're going to call it a day. That's it for next shift. That's the post-game show. Next game is Saturday. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.